Okay, so let's look at the next part. In this part, we are building sums, strings, and lists using the accumulator pattern. And we're also going to use loops and conditionals. It's typical with accumulator pattern. So let's look at the first one. We have a function called a of x. So it looks like for our accumulator pattern, we're going to be accumulating a string because we're starting off with an empty string. Okay, so in accumulator pattern, you start off with an empty number, like a 0 number, or an empty list, an empty string, something like that, and then you build it up bit by bit. So this must be the building part. So we're going through 4z in x, and down here I can already see I'm going to be passing strings. So z is going to be a character. Z is going to become each character in x. Then I'm checking if z, the character, is in the string of vowels. Okay, so if the character is in the string of vowels, then I'm adding a star onto the end of y. Otherwise, if z is not in the list of vowels or the string of vowels, I'm adding z onto the end of y. So what is this going to do? Hopefully you already can kind of figure out what it's going to do. So if I go through each character in x one by one, if the character is a vowel, then I put a star onto y. If the character is not a vowel, then I just put the regular character itself onto y. So it's basically going to be building up the same string as x, but with stars in place of vowels. But let's go through and see step by step how it happens. Okay, so the first time I run this, I'm calling it with x equal to Susquehanna. Okay, and then y, as usual, is just starting off as an empty string. I'm just going to do it with single quotes instead of doubles. It doesn't matter though. All right, and then I'm going through each character in x, which is Susquehanna. So z is going to start off the first time this loop runs as capital S. Okay, and then I'm checking, is that character capital S, Z, is that in A, E, I, O, U? And since it's not, I'm going to do the else part down here, and Y is going to become whatever it was before. So before it was empty string, plus now it's going to have the character Z added onto the end of it. Okay, so Z right now is capital S. So empty string plus capital S is just capital S. All right, so Y has gotten its first letter. Now we come back to the top of the loop, and I go to the next character in the X string. Here's the X string. So I'm going to the U this time. Z is going to become U. I check if U is in A, E, I, O, U, and it is in there this time. So now Y is going to become whatever it was before. So that's whatever Y was before right there. So S, and then plus a star. So this is going to be S star. Okay? So instead of putting the U after the S, I put a star. So I'm basically like starring out all the vowels. Okay, now I come back to the top of the loop. Z is going to become the next letter, which is the little s. Okay, I check if little s, Z, little s is in A, E, I, O, U, and it is not. So I'm coming down to the else part, and Y is going to become whatever it was before. So it was this, plus Z. So current value of Z is the little s. Okay, so now I got capital S, star, little s. And from here, you can probably pretty much figure out how the rest of it's going to go, right? So it's going to be the part that we already have, and then just going to go through all these letters one by one. If it's not a vowel, then you just put it. If it is one of those 5 vowels, then you put a star, like that. All right, so once you run it a few times, you can kind of figure that out. Now the second one is the same way, but you have to be a little bit careful here because the capital U is actually not in this list. So that one does not get starred out. So it's going to be capital U, N, star instead of I, V, star instead of E, R, S, star, T, and then Y is also not in the list. So, oops, sorry, so regular Y. And let's make sure that's actually what prints out. Yep. Okay, hope that made sense to you guys. Next one. So we have another function here, and then we're going to be calling it. Now it looks like I'm working with lists, and they're lists of numbers. So I guess I'm not building up a string this time. I'm probably either building a list or a sum. So let's see. My function H, I get passed 2 things called L and M, which I already know from looking down here. Those are going to be lists. Okay, and then I have a thing called T that starts off as 0, and that's what I end up returning. So this is definitely the type of accumulator pattern where we're making a sum. So we're making a sum, adding stuff up. Now we just got to figure out what are we adding up. So I'm doing a loop here. and I'm looping through, so I is going to be in range len of L. So I is going to start off, because this range only has one argument, I is going to start off as 0. So I goes through 0, 1, and then where does it stop? It's going to stop right before the length of L. Okay, in this case, I already know my L is going to have length 3, because I'm only calling this one time. But theoretically, I could stop 1 before length of L. I could do this with a larger list if I wanted to. Okay, and then let's look at the next part down here. So then I'm taking T and I'm adding, I'm making T be whatever it was before, plus, and then I'm taking entries, the I index entries from L and from M, multiplying them together, and then I'm adding that to T. Okay, so that's how I'm making the total. That's what I'm making it out of. So let's go ahead and run this with the values, or mentally run it with the values that are plugged in down here. So we're going to start off with L is going to be 1, 0, 3. M is going to be 2, 3, 1. All right, and T starts off as 0. I is going to start off as 0. Okay, so first thing that happens here is T is going to become whatever it was, whatever it was before. So right now it's 0, plus, now we're going to take the I index from L, so I is currently 0. So we're taking the 0 index entry from L, which is 1, times the 0 index entry from M, which is 2. Okay, so T is going to become 2. Oops. All right, and then we're doing the loop again because we're not done yet. So I is going to become the next value in the range, which is 1. And then we're going to come here again, and T is going to become, so whatever it was before, which is currently 2, plus the I index from L, so that's the 1 index entry from L, the 0, times the I index from M, so 1 index from M, which is 3. All right, and that's 0 times 3, so actually not going to do anything. It's just going to be 2 again. All right, and then now this range goes up to 1 before the length of L. Length of L is 3, so the next value, 2, is going to be the last value. So now we're going to make T become whatever it was before, which was 2. That's this part. Plus the I index entry from L, so here's I, the 2 index entry from L. So 3 times the 2 index entry from M, so 1. So 2 plus 3 times 1, that is 5. Oops, equals 5. And then that is what's going to get returned. Okay, so what's going to print out here, just 5. Now let's go ahead and check. By the way, this is called the dot product. If these two were vectors, then this is you're calculating the dot product of the two vectors. If anybody cares. It's a math thing. All right, so next one, we're not doing numbers, we're doing words again. So we have a list called X with apple, banana, and coconut. And now we have an empty list. So as soon as I see the empty list and I know we're doing accumulator pattern, I'm like, oh, we're probably building a list. It looks like that's what we're doing right here. Okay, so we're going to loop through for Z in X. So Z is going to become each entry in X one by one. So first Z will be apple, then Z will be banana, then Z will be coconut. So the first time this runs, Z is going to be apple. And now what happens here, Y is going to become, so Y is going to be, so it's going to be a list containing the entry Z. So it's going to be apple. Okay, so that's this part. And then plus whatever Y was before. So that's plus empty list. So when you do plus between two lists, it just glues them together, like it just makes them become one list, and then you put commas between all the entries. But there's no other entries, so it's just going to be apple like that. All right, now we come back to the top because we're not done going through all the entries in X. And Z is going to become the next entry in X, which is banana. Okay, now down here, what is Y going to become? So first we have a list containing Z as the only entry. So that's going to be banana. Oops, can't spell. Banana. Okay, and then we're doing plus, and then the current value of Y, which is this. Okay, so now we're concatenating these two lists. That's what the plus does. So just glue them together with all the entries with commas between them like that. So just all the entries from the first one and then all the entries from the second one. All right, and then we have one more entry up here for our for loop in X. So the last value for Z is going to be coconut. And then we come here and let's see, what are we making Y? So Y is going to be a list with Z as the only entry. So coconut. And then we are doing plus current value of Y. Okay, so it's plus this. And then we're concatenating with the plus so that this just becomes one long list. So Y ends up being coconut, banana, apple, and that's printing out. And what it's going to look like when it prints out, since it's printing a list, it prints out all in one line like this, just exactly like that. The brackets, the commas, the if there's strings inside of the list, it will put the quotes around them like this. I think the only difference is it usually puts spaces like that, but I won't count off if you forget the spaces. I probably will take off if you forget to put quotes though, because yeah, when you're printing a list like this, not printing the entries from the list, you're just printing the list itself, it does put quotes around any strings that are in there. Okay, let's look at the next one. So we have a string, the quick brown fox jumps. And then we have an empty string called T. So we're probably, yeah, it looks like we're building up a string. All right, and then we are using the split command, which is a way of processing text. So what's going to happen here with W equals S dot split? So when you don't put any argument into the split method, so you leave the parentheses empty, then it's going to split whatever string you're splitting. So in this case, it's S. It's going to split it at any white space. Okay, so the split command breaks up strings into lists. So a W is going to be a list, and then the entries in the list are going to be the substrings in S that are between white space. Okay, so the first entry is going to be T, H, E, and then quick, and then brown, and then fox, and then jumps. Okay, so it's breaking it up into words essentially. Okay, so that's what W is going to be. And then what are we doing here? So for M in range len W. Okay, so M is going to be 0, 1, etc. up through, it's going to stop right before the length of W. So the length of W is the number of entries, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is going to go up through 4 and then stop. So M is going to be those numbers. Let's go ahead and run through what happens on each of them. So we start off with M being 0, and then T is going to be assigned to be, so T is going to be whatever it was before, so empty list, plus, so that means concatenation, so we're just gluing on more characters. So we're gluing on \n, that is a new line character. Okay, and then we're gluing on, so here we're gluing on M periods. So whatever M is, we're gluing on that many periods. Currently M is 0, so we're not putting any periods. And then the last thing we're gluing on is the M index entry from W. So the 0 index entry from W is the. So that is what we're getting for the first value of T. So just what T was before, empty list, new line character, no periods this time because M was 0, and then 0 index entry from W. Okay, now let's go back to the top of the loop, and M is going to take the next value, which is 1. Okay, and so now T is going to be assigned to be whatever it was before. So we start off with everything that we had before. Okay, and then plus, so we're gluing on another new line character, so /n, and now plus. So now we're going to do 1 period, because M is 1, so period. Okay, and then now we're gluing on the 1 index entry from W, so that's going to be quick. All right, so this T looks pretty weird. Looks like we're going to have like 1 word per line basically, and then some periods in front of them. Okay, so now we go back to the top of the loop. M is going to become the next value 2. Okay, and then we're executing the code inside the loop. So first, or the only thing actually that happens is T will be, so it starts off with previous value of T. So it's going to be all this. Okay, and then we're adding on, we're gluing on to the end of that, a new line character. All right, and then some periods. How many periods? 2 periods. So period times M, 2 periods. And then the 2 index entry from W, which is going to be brown. Okay, and that's it for this line. We come back up, do the next value of M. It's going to be 3. Okay, so back down to here. T is going to become whatever it was before. And then we're going to glue more stuff on. Okay, so then we glue on a new line character. There it is. 3 periods. Boop, boop, boop. And then the 3 index entry from W, so 0, 1, 2, 3. It's going to be Fox. Okay, and now for the very last run, when M is 4, we're going to start off with T, same as it was before. So that's this T equals T part. Then we put a new line character and then 4 periods. So new line, boop, 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 boop. And then lastly, the index 4 entry from W, which is jumps. So you guys are probably glad I didn't do the whole sentence. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dogs. It would have taken longer. Okay, so then what's going to happen, the very last thing is we're going to print that value for T. Now we have to be a little bit careful here because you're being asked to write out exactly what we'll print on each line. So we're printing this, and it has new line characters in it. So in terms of what's going to print, on the very first line is going to be nothing because this string starts with a new line character. So the very first thing that prints is like Python basically just prints a new line character, meaning it goes to the next line. Okay, and then we're going to have the word the, and then we have another new line character, so we go to the next line. And then we're going to have a period followed by quick. Okay, so period quick. And then another new line character. So next line. I put these spaces after the comments here, but actually Python will not print like these spaces that I'm putting at the beginning. I just think it's easier to read if I have a space between my comment character and the what's printing out. Okay, and then I have dot dot brown, and then there's another new line character, and then dot 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 fox. So that's on the next line, and then another new line character, and then dot 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 jumps. Okay, so I got excited about diagonals again and made a diagonally printing thingy. Yeah, maybe on the test I'll get excited about circles and make things print in circles or something. I don't know. Okay, so you see here there was actually like an empty line at the top right there, just like I said there would be. Okay, the last one in this part. So we have a list of a bunch of different types of stuff. ABC, 1, 2, 3, true, high U, 97.341. And then we have an empty list. So since we're doing accumulator pattern, I guess we're going to be building up a list from this empty list. I see down here I have b.append. So yes, we are going to be building up B. Okay, so what am I actually doing? I'm going through all of the entries in A, and I'm going to call each entry Q. So Q is going to become each entry in A one by one. So Q is going to start off as the string ABC. And then I'm checking. So what am I checking? I'm checking if the type of Q, which is string right now, is equal to the type of this, which is a string. So I'm checking if Q's type is a string. So checking if Q is a string, basically. All right, and then if it is, I'm appending Q to B. So for the first time I do this, Q is a string, so it starts off as true. So the first one here, this is going to be true. So I'm going to go ahead and append Q to B. So B is no longer going to be an empty list. It's going to have the entry ABC in it. Okay, then I'm going to come back to the top, go to the next value of Q. Q is going to become 123 or 123. And now for type of Q, I'm going to get integer. It's not going to be equal to the type of a string. Okay, so this is going to be false. So I'm not going to append 123 to my B list. So I'm going to come back up to the top. Q is going to become true. That is a Boolean. It is not a string. So this is going to be false. And I'm not going to append it. Okay, because that if was false. Next value for Q is going to be high, which is a string. So this check now here will get true. And so that value for Q will get appended to the end of B. So B is, I forgot the B equals part here, but B is going to become, it'll have ABC in it still, and now it will have appended to the end high. Come back up here to the top of the loop. Q is going to become U. All right. And then I check if the type of U is a string type, and it is. So I'm going to append that. So B is going to become, it has everything it had before, and now we're tacking on U to the end. Last value for Q is going to be 97.341, and the type of that is going to be float, not string. So that's going to be false. And we're not going to do the appending. So when I print out B, it's going to print out just like this because it's a list. The only difference is I'm going to have spaces after the commas. Oops, that's no big deal though. Oops, and I need the last quote here. There we go. And let's make sure. Yep. All right, so that's it for this part.